Welcome back, everyone. Another episode, part 8. Welcome back. Conversations with Uncle Craig. Yes, we are here and we are diving in. So make sure you hit that like button, you subscribe, because when you are subscribed, you get all the notifications when a video has dropped. Leave a comment, and let us know how we're doing. So last week we touched on the 70s era, and we're going to stay right there with Uncle Craig. The 70s era.
Yeah, the '70s had it molded me in probably in a negative way though. Who I wind up becoming because the neighborhood I grew up in was they call it down the way, the Black Bottom, and everybody down there didn't have it like that. Okay, there was a lot of drug addiction throughout the neighborhood, a lot of dope dealers. We was gang worn at the time, so it was a whole bunch of craziness going on in the communities. That regular people had to deal with. They had to deal with like today. It's no different. It's just that it was less. The amount of people now is more than what it was back in the '60s and the '70s. But the neighborhoods, still had to deal with a lot of the craziness and people going to jail, people selling drugs, people going to school, people working, and
Working class people.
right. And instead of me, putting interest in the guy that was going out the house every morning with a brown paper bag, I wanted to emulate the dope dealer because his life was fly. His money was made faster, and he didn't have to go to work and deal with a whole bunch of dumb stuff. When selling drugs is way more, but at the time that's the way you validate why you're doing what you're doing. And I had an uncle that used heroin, my mother's youngest brother, and I knew this way before I even started using heroin. And I think the reason why I jumped right to it without no hesitation was because I knew I had somebody in my corner, my uncle. So if I went through bad times, or if I, got sick, or if I needed some drugs, I can go to him. So I think that influenced me to really, because it was like a decision I made. Somebody come to you and say, yeah, look, want to shoot some dope? I mean, that's something, that's like, want to go to the movies? I mean, it's not that simple. But I looked at it like, I took it like it was that simple. We couldn't buy no cough syrup one day, and the next thing you know, they said, well, let's get some dope. It has the same effect. And we all said, okay. Knowing we see these guys every day. I used to go up 36th Street, up to Lancaster Avenue, and I would see these guys nodding and scratching, dirty, you know what I mean? And so it's not like I didn't know what I was walking into. But what I was going through internally, I didn't want to feel. So I think what I did was, no, I ain't gonna think, I did. I wanted to drown that out, and heroin did that because cough syrup did it.
So when you said you wanted to drown that out, taking a step back, you were very young. So what made you feel like you needed to jump to something so severe at a very young age? Because I'm thinking like most kids, and not all kids, but most kids are thriving and being children. At some point in time, you weren't being a child anymore. You were dabbling into, they would say, grown folk stuff.
Right. I had friends growing up, in the '60s. I had a group of friends, but I never felt a part of that. I never felt like, that we were really friends. I always got along better by myself. I always was a loner.
Okay.
Up until when I started messing with drugs. Because they put me into another different atmosphere. Okay, now when I was younger and I was stealing and everything, I was stealing the floor, to play the pinball machine, okay, to buy a cheesesteak or something like that. Now I gotta get money to buy drugs. It's not about, once I got hooked, it wasn't no more fun. See, when we first started getting high, before we got the habits, we used to get high on Friday and go to a party down North Philly, sit on the corner, sit on the chair and nod the whole party. When the party's over, then we get up. So how much enjoyment is that? But we enjoyed it because it's like it shut everything off. It just shut off pain, it shut off hurt, it shut off embarrassment, it just shut off everything emotional that I might have been going through. I didn't feel it no more. I could see somebody get shot in the head and say, yeah, damn, and wouldn't have no feelings. Heroin numbs you. It numbs you to the point where you have no feelings. You have no emotions. You're just a thing.
And what age was this again?
15.
15.
So, I didn't know I had a habit because I was doing it on the weekends. But then when I dropped out of school, I started doing it every day because everybody was in school. I'm walking around the neighborhood. I don't have nothing to do. So I just go buy a bag of dope. Next thing I know, I'm running to my uncle. We get into something. And before you know it, one Sunday, I remember it. One Sunday came around. And on Sundays, back in the days, nobody went out. Okay, it wasn't like it is today. Okay, Sundays, people stayed home because they had to go to work the next day. So that was a rest day. Okay, everything was closed on Sundays. Today, things are opening Thanksgiving. They open up on Christmas. Back in the days, everything was closed on Sunday. They really observed that day. Okay, and so now everybody's home. So now I can't do no burglaries because everybody's home. I'm going down in the neighborhoods that I hit, and everybody's home. So I come back home, and my mom said, "What's wrong with you?" I was real fidgety. And I kept moving on the couch while they was looking at TV. And she said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I'm all right, I'm cool." And I said, "I gotta go out and I'm going around to see Tony." And I went around to see my cousin Tony, and when I was going around the corner, I ran into my uncle. Mm-hmm. And he said, "What's up, you all right?" And while we was talking, I kept spitting. And he said, "Why you?" I said, "Man, what's this spit?" He said, you gotta have it." I said, "Huh?" I said, "Come on, don't start that, man." I said, "I'm all right, man. It ain't gonna hurt me." And he said, "You gotta have it." He said, "Come on." And he gave me a shot of dope. I was cool. I said, whoa. And now, when I went home that night.
Wait a minute. Let's go back. Hold on. I'm sorry. He gave you a shot of dope.
Yes.
He realized that you had a habit.
Yes. And he didn't want me to go through the pain that I was going to get ready to go through.
And you are his nephew, and
yes.
He felt compelled to do that even at the age that you was.
Yeah. Wow. See, I look at two things. See, when you're a drug addict, you're looking at somebody you can use.
Okay.
It's about usury. To get what you want, when you want it. He knew I was a burglar. So he knew a lot of days, as soon as I get the money, I'm going to come looking for him. So he gave me a shot of dope, cooled me out, and I guess he felt as though that, okay, now I'm locked into him. So now whenever, and he knew I did a burglary every day. I kept money in my pocket. So he would never be sick. And I think, and that's my uncle and all that. And I don't like speaking ill of the dead, but I believe through the years, I thought about it. Why would your uncle stick a needle in your arm? Okay?
That's what I'm thinking.
So, I looking at it that way, I said, it's nothing good came out of that by him sticking that needle in my arm. The only good thing came out of it was the fact that he knew I was a good hustler. He knew I was a good thief. And he knew that days that he didn't get his quota because he wasn't about doing nothing wrong. Chicken never went to jail. Okay? So he didn't put himself out there to go to jail because he knew he had a habit. So what he did was during the day he would bum. Okay? Go to shooting galleries and all that and everything and get a shot here and a shot there to try to get shot. Once I got hooked, he knew he was turned on. He was in. And my family members didn't believe it, but that's what happened.
What was your relationship like with your mother? Like, were you close? Because I remember in the first episode you was the firstborn. Is that correct?
Yes.
So throughout those first 15 years of your life, what was that dynamic like with your mom? Was y'all real tight, locked in?
It was like I don't want to say love hate, but a love and dislike relationship.
Unpack
The
that.
abuse that I went through when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
from the ages of like 5, I can remember, up until 12, 13, 12. That's when I started running. Well, 9. I started running away at 9 to get away from the beatings. But, and then as I started getting older, I stayed in jail. So we really wasn't around each other a lot. Okay, I come home from jail, be out in the streets a couple months, bam, back in jail. So doing from like the age of 15 to 18, I, the relationship was like, even though I was her firstborn and she always looked out for me,
Mm-hmm.
even every time I went to jail, she always made sure I had money, she made sure I had a TV, radio, whatever and all that. But she, I love my mother,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And as I got older, I understood why I was getting them beatings, but that didn't take nothing away from it.
Okay.
You know, I understood it, but still, I still had some type of animosity towards it because I shouldn't have been that young being beat. 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, you get knocked upside your head, knocked down steps and all that. Your mother ain't supposed to do that, you know, but...
She's supposed to make you feel safe.
And I think that's where the anger came from, the
Okay.
beatings. The beatings and the insecurities that I had growing up. That kept the anger fueled. Okay? See, because once I stopped getting the beatings, now what you gonna be mad about? Well, I'm a drug addict. I'm out in the street. Okay? As long as I can find a reason to get high, that's all that mattered. If I woke up and didn't have a pair of socks to wear, that was a reason to get high.
And it also sounds like if you only had a reason to not be at home to get the beatings. So
Right.
that's why you stayed out.
And that's another reason why I stayed out.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And but my mom, I think she had a way, she showed love.
Mm-hmm.
My mom loved me. I don't think she hated me. I think she tried to control me because that's the way she was controlled. Her father used to beat them with some of the things that she said that they used to get beat with. I was, what? And so I'm saying it was just passed on. She thought that beating me would control me. Because like I said, I thought I was born bad. I was stealing at the age of like 4 or 5. I was going in my grandfather's pants pocket stealing his money.
Right.
For what reason? What did a 4 or 5-year-old kid got to steal? You know? But anyway, through the 70s, we're going to like 72.
Mm-hmm.
This is when I got my first state bit. I ran away from this juvenile place, and I turned 18 on the streets while I was on the run. When they caught me, I had a case and the runaway, and the judge said, "I'm sending you to Camp Hill." That was my first time away. This is what I did a bit. And I talked about this, I believe, in chapter 6 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first strong bit. I was away from my family and friends for 16 months. And that did something to me. Because when I came home, first thing I did, I stuck a needle in my arm. I came home in October 73. 2 days later, I was with my uncle up in his apartment, getting high. Went back into my burglarizing and everything. And this went on, this is right after I got out of Camp Hill. Mm-hmm. And throughout the 70s, you know, I'm not done with the 70s, okay? We got a long way to go in the 70s because, but like I said at the beginning, this molded me. This, I believe this is what put me on the path of destruction,
Okay.
the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone, as you heard it first, he said, we haven't even begun to get started. We're still going to take you through the 70s era. A lot has happened. And in this episode 8, Uncle Craig unpacked some interesting moments in his life. His relationship with his mother, how this all started, the beatings, even going back to the first part, being born bad. So, with that being said, hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and continue to enjoy Conversations with Uncle Craig. Thank you for always watching.